My best friend, Sarah, doesn't believe in marriage. She's the type who doesn't even date. Because she loved children, she specifically underwent IVF. Not long after, I also found out I was pregnant. What should have been wonderful news, a double blessing, turned sour when I accidentally caught Marcus taking Sarah, my best friend, to her prenatal checkup. He had told me he had to work late and couldn't make time to accompany me to mine. When they saw me, their eyes were filled with guilt. It was Marcus who finally broke the awkward silence. "Honey, I was planning to surprise you here at the hospital," Marcus began. "I just happened to run into Sarah, who was also here for a prenatal checkup, so I accompanied her." Seeing his cue, Sarah chimed in with her explanation. "That's right," she said. "We just happened to bump into each other, and Marcus offered to keep me company. Ellie, don't overthink it. You know I don't believe in marriage, I'm not interested in Marcus." Marcus immediately stepped forward to steady me, a fawning smile plastered across his face. "Honey, how could I let you come to your prenatal checkup alone? I specifically took the day off today, just to spend more time with you and the baby." My doubts hadn't completely vanished, but lacking concrete evidence, I had no choice but to keep them to myself. My best friend, Sarah, was a classic example of someone who doesn't believe in marriage, the type who wouldn't even consider dating. She always complained to me that men were no good. It wasn't until Marcus and I started dating that she began using the pretense of helping me vet out jerks to get closer to Marcus. When she decided to do IVF, I was somewhat against it. "Sarah, maybe you should think about it a bit more? Look at your situation now, you have no savings and no stable job. Plus, I heard IVF costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you have the baby, what will you use to support it?" Instead of listening to my advice, she resented me. "So what if you have a Marcus and a job? Does that mean I don't have the right to be a mother?" Ultimately, I gave in and supported her, thinking I'd help out as much as I could once the baby was born. My expression returned to normal, and my voice betrayed no emotion. "Is that so? It seems I've misunderstood you too." Patients were being called at the entrance of the maternity, and just then, Sarah's name was called. They exchanged an awkward glance with me, as if seeking my permission. I saw right through their ulterior motives and offered a slight smile. "Marcus, you go with Sarah. I'll wait for you outside." With his intentions exposed, Marcus's face flushed with a hint of embarrassment. "Honey, you know Sarah is all alone, we should help her as much as we can." He suddenly brightened, as if remembering something. "Besides, honey, isn't this exactly what you taught me?" It was true. I had seen how hard it was for Sarah, a young woman, to make it on her own, and I had indeed encouraged Marcus to help her out. She never hesitated to take advantage, either. Whenever a light broke or a pipe leaked at her place, even in the middle of the night, she'd call Marcus to fix it for her. The next day, she'd feign a look of disdain and complain about Marcus. "Let me tell you, he's absolutely useless. He can't even fix a leaky pipe properly." On the surface, it was a complaint, but her tone held no hint of actual resentment. At the time, I just thought of her as my best friend and didn't read into it. I watched them enter the prenatal checkup room, my mind brimming with overflowing questions. After they left, I immediately called a college friend who worked in the hospital's records department. "Sarah's pregnant, right? I'm a little worried about her. Could you send me a copy of her prenatal checkup report?" It was as if she had already prepared it. The report was sent to me in less than a minute. Without a second thought, I immediately opened the image. The words "IVF pregnancy" in large letters in the bottom right corner of the report appeared before me, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed I had misunderstood them. One was my best friend, the other Marcus. How could they possibly betray me? While they were at their checkup, I went alone to get my number for my own appointment. I had hoped that once Marcus came out, he could accompany me to my prenatal checkup. While waiting, an older pregnant woman, perhaps seeing me alone, couldn't help but strike up a conversation. "Young lady, are you here for your prenatal checkup all by yourself?" Hearing this, I instinctively retorted, "No, I came with Marcus." No sooner had I answered than Marcus walked out with Sarah. I pointed at Marcus, then turned to the older woman and said, "That's Marcus, my husband." Watching him accompany Sarah, my best friend, both of them beaming with happiness, my voice faltered with embarrassment. "He just happened to run into my best friend here, so he kept her company." The older woman watched the two laughing and talking, then looked at me with a hint of pity. "Young lady, don't say I didn't warn you," she advised. "Keep an eye on your best friend." After saying that, she followed the man next to her into the checkup room, and I didn't give it much more thought. "Marcus, we're next. You'll come with me, right?" Hearing my words, his face was filled with a look of difficulty. Honey, it's not that I don't want to go with you, he stammered. I just finished accompanying Sarah. If I go in with you now, what will people think of me? How about this, honey, you go in by yourself this time, and I'll definitely go with you next time, okay? My reputation isn't the issue, but this is also about protecting both you and Sarah. Even though he made a seemingly logical point, my heart still ached a little. Seeing my unhappy face, a flicker of triumph crossed Sarah's eyes. I wondered if it was just my imagination. Exactly, Ellie, Sarah added. If you ask Marcus to go in with you now, wouldn't that be putting him on the spot? The two of them spoke in perfect synchrony, finishing each other's sentences. In the end, I said nothing and went in alone to complete my prenatal checkup. During the checkup, a few nurses were chatting nearby. The last two couples who came for their checkups were so well matched, handsome man and beautiful woman, one said. Yes, and the man was so caring, doting on his wife the whole time. I knew they were talking about Marcus and Sarah. If the report hadn't clearly stated that Sarah's pregnancy was the result of IVF, I would have seriously doubted their relationship. On the way home, Sarah also came along. They laughed and chattered happily, completely oblivious to me sitting behind them. When it was time to get in the car, Sarah directly climbed into the passenger seat. Seeing my expression darken, she immediately started playing the victim. Ellie, I've been having morning sickness ever since I got pregnant. I get really uncomfortable if I don't sit in the front. Besides, this baby was conceived through IVF, so it's not as robust as your naturally conceived one. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Marcus also stepped in. Yes, honey, Sarah finally conceived through IVF. Just let her have it. He seemed to forget that I suffered from severe motion sickness. And now, being pregnant, my morning sickness was even worse. Throughout the 20-minute drive, I continuously dry heaved. The two of them chatted animatedly in the front seat, completely oblivious to me in the back. It wasn't until my dry heaving became too loud that it finally caught Marcus's attention. He complained in a joking manner. Honey, the front and back seats aren't that different. Why are you so fussy? Besides, Sarah is your best friend. You're not getting jealous of her too, are you? I felt so terrible that I didn't even have the strength to answer him. After a bumpy ride, we finally arrived downstairs at my building. Marcus didn't take me upstairs. The moment I got out, he immediately started the car to take Sarah home. My heart was heavy with bitterness, but I held it all in. Not long after I got home, Marcus sent me a text message. Honey, I'm working late at the office tonight, so I won't come home and disturb you and the baby's rest. I'm exhausted from accompanying you to your prenatal checkup today, he specifically added. Looking at the message on my phone, I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Was he accompanying me to my prenatal checkup, or Sarah to hers? I stopped dwelling on Marcus and Sarah, gently stroking the slight curve of my abdomen. The doctor said the baby was healthy and perfectly well behaved in my womb. The thought of welcoming this little life inside me filled me with irresistible joy. To ensure I could take good care of the baby later, I hadn't touched a single cent of the $300,000 Marcus had given me as our savings for the future. Thinking of this, I deliberately opened my banking app to check the $300,000 balance. Since my account wasn't linked to text message notifications, I didn't receive balance updates. The moment I tapped to view the balance, I nearly dropped my phone. The $300,000 had vanished without a trace, the balance was now zero. Seeing this, I immediately called a bank employee. The bank's customer service informed me that the $300,000 had been transferred out 4 months ago, right around the time Sarah had mentioned wanting to do IVF. Besides me, the only other person who knew my bank card PIN was Marcus. Realizing this, I immediately called Marcus. The phone rang for a long time before someone picked up. It was Sarah's voice. So, his working late was actually accompanying Sarah. My heart felt as if it were being squeezed, making it hard to breathe. Ellie, the gas line at my place suddenly broke, and I'm scared. Marcus is fixing the gas line for me right now. What do you need him for? I'll tell him. Emotions that had been building up for so long finally erupted. When and I weren't together, I never saw you scared. What, now that I have Marcus, you suddenly know how to be scared, huh? Tell to come home, or it's over. I didn't wait for Sarah to reply before hanging up. Less than 20 minutes later, Marcus rushed home. Gone was his playful smile from earlier, his expression was now utterly solemn. After a long silence, Marcus finally spoke, his tone a little tentative. Honey, I really was working late at the office. It's just that Sarah said her gas line broke, so I went to check it for her. You know, she's pregnant, and a broken gas line can be so dangerous. Marcus probably didn't even realize it, but when he spoke of Sarah, his voice was full of concern and tenderness. How could I have been so foolish? It was only now that I saw there was something more between them. At this thought, I couldn't help but shed sorrowful tears. Seeing that my face was still grim, he thought he had said something wrong. Honey, Sarah and I are just friends. Besides, didn't you tell me to look after her more in the first place? It was always the same. Every time I uncovered their flirtation, Marcus would use this tactic to ward me off, and it always worked. In the beginning, Marcus still knew his limits, but as they grew more familiar, their behavior became increasingly brazen. So, Marcus, is that your excuse for repeatedly deceiving me? I asked you to look after her, and you took that to mean bringing her into our home, did you? Ignoring the pain in my heart, I felt a certain resolve solidify within me. Let's get a divorce. I don't want to be with you anymore. Hearing me say I wanted a divorce, his face immediately fell into a panic. Divorce? I don't agree to that. Just because Sarah and I got a little close, you want to divorce me? Eleanor, how can you be so heartless? He tried to say more, but I cut him off. You transferred Th. $300,000 from the bank account, didn't you? You knew that money was for our baby. Did you ever think of me, or our child, when you transferred it? So that's how Sarah got the money for IVF? You were helping her behind my back. At my words, his face drained of color, then flushed, too guilty to look at me. You found out? I just saw that she was all alone, with a child, she'd have someone to rely on later. And said she'd pay me back after the baby is born. Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then tell me, what will she use to pay you back? She can't even support herself, how do you expect her to pay you back? I screamed that last sentence. We were just an average family, $300,000 was a considerable sum for us. And now I was pregnant, so there would be even more expenses. When gave the money to Sarah, he hadn't considered me at all. The baby is mine, and the assets will be split 50-50. I'll grant you your wish. He knew I was serious, not joking with him. I just lent her $300,000, didn't I? I didn't cheat on you, so why do you have to be so aggressive? Eleanor, you weren't like this before. He seemed to realize his words were harsh, so he softened his tone. Ellie, don't even think about divorce. I won't divorce you. As for Sarah, I'll keep my distance from her. His voice was firm, just as it had been when he was pursuing me. After saying those two sentences, he got up and left the house, leaving me alone on the sofa. I thought he was going to find Sarah, but to my surprise, he returned shortly after leaving. He held a bouquet of my favorite white roses. His eyes were red-rimmed, it was clear he had been crying. He carefully placed the flowers in front of me and sincerely apologized. Honey, I admit I got a little too close to Sarah before. But believe me, you're the only one who has ever been in my heart. Although I was furious that he'd taken $300,000, he hadn't actually cheated on me. After several years of a relationship, how could I just let go? After that incident, he genuinely made an effort to keep his distance from Sarah. Sarah called him right in front of me, saying a light in her house was broken. Marcus heard her, and immediately brushed her off. Don't bother me with things like this again, he said. My wife gets jealous. After saying that, he immediately hung up the phone. Seeing this, Sarah thought I was manipulating things behind the scenes and even sent me messages to confront me, but I ignored her. Regardless, she had crossed a line. From then on, Marcus came home punctually after work and even made me nutritious meals. I thought that as long as he was willing to change, even if it was just for the sake of our baby, I would forgive him this one time. I had believed our life would continue happily like this, until he received a phone call. He hastily took off his apron, his face etched with panic. Honey, something came up at the office. I'll be right back. I didn't think much of it at first, but then Sarah happened to post something on social media from the hospital. My stomach hurts so much. I wish the baby's father were here. It had been posted 10 minutes ago. It all felt deliberately orchestrated. A powerful sense of unease enveloped me, and in the end, I decided to follow him out. I hailed a taxi and followed him. His destination wasn't the office, but the hospital. Just then, a van swerved toward my taxi, causing a violent collision. I desperately shielded my stomach, but I couldn't escape unharmed. The ambulance arrived quickly, and at the hospital, medical staff rushed me toward the operating room. As I lay on the stretcher, I happened to pass right by Marcus. He was gently holding Sarah's waist, and neither of them seemed to notice me, covered in blood. Madam, quickly contact your husband to sign the surgical consent form, or the baby won't be saved. The doctor's anxious voice echoed in my ears. due to the severe surgery was needed to save the baby. My parents were out of town and couldn't get here, so the only person who could sign was Marcus. Enduring the severe pain below, I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. Doctor, my husband is in the hospital corridor. Could you please help me call him? His name is Marcus, and he's with a pregnant woman who looks about my age. To avoid any mistake, I even gave them his name. I was drenched in cold sweat from the pain, yet I refused to give up my last shred of hope. The surgery was critical. Every second without a signature put the baby in greater danger. Even if Marcus was the biggest jerk, he wouldn't joke with our baby's life. A few more minutes passed, and the nurse, her face etched with anxiety, rushed back. When I went to the corridor, he had already left. The camera footage shows that Mr. Marcus, the man you mentioned, already left the hospital, with his arm around another girl. Hearing those words, my heart died completely. The pain of the hemorrhage was less than 1,000th of my heartache. It was laughable that I still held on to hope for him. Tears streamed down my face, and I apologized to my baby in my heart. Sadly, it was leaving me before it had even seen this world. Because wouldn't answer his phone or come to sign the forms, the baby ultimately couldn't be saved. I underwent the DC procedure alone at the hospital and returned home by myself. Looking at my flat abdomen, my heart utterly died. It wasn't until evening that Marcus finally came home. His face was devoid of expression, let alone remorse. There was an emergency meeting at the office, and my phone was off, which is why I didn't answer your calls. Honey, is something wrong? Why did you call so many times? Watching him put on such a serious act, I suddenly found it incredibly absurd. Noticing my troubled expression, he sat next to me with a playful smile. I was just trying to earn more money, so I can support you and the baby in future. Once the baby is born, there will be a lot of expenses. And I'm also making amends for the $300,000 mistake. Seeing that my face remained expressionless, a flicker of displeasure crossed his features, his patience seemingly worn thin. The silence stretched, and I still said nothing. He seemed provoked by my silence, and his emotions completely erupted. I've already done so much. What more do you want from me? Eleanor, I'm a human being, not an animal. There's a limit to how unreasonable you can be. Just because I lent Sarah $300,000, you're going to hold that against me forever, aren't you? Finally, emotion showed on my face, and I let tears stream from my eyes. If you think I'm being unreasonable, then just go live with Sarah. Tears streamed down my face, and I looked at him with bloodshot eyes. Seeing me like this, he showed no sympathy. Instead, his face was filled with annoyance. Fine, since you put it that way, I'll give you what you want. Don't come regretting it later, saying I disrespected you if I actually go. He didn't leave immediately, observing my reaction for a long time. Seeing that I remained as unmoved as before, he finally stood up. You're utterly impossible. After saying that, he slammed the door and left. The room was empty, leaving me all alone. The baby was gone, and I completely gave up on Marcus. I contacted a lawyer to prepare the divorce papers as soon as possible. Marcus really did go to Sarah, and the two of them genuinely began living together. Ever since Marcus moved into Sarah's place, her social media posts hadn't stopped. I used to think all men were no good, until I met him. The accompanying picture showed a man's back, cooking in a kitchen. The privacy setting on her social media post told me that this post was visible only to me. It seemed Sarah was ready to burn her bridges with me completely. But I still couldn't figure out when the two of them had actually gotten together. Besides showing off her sweet daily life with Marcus, there were also pictures of designer handbags and other luxury items. Given's finances, she couldn't possibly afford them. I wondered why Marcus's spending had increased so much recently. It turned out he was buying bags for Sarah. During this time, the police were following up on my car accident. The driver who caused the accident hadn't lost control of his car, nor was he drunk, but he consistently refused to state his reason for hitting me. Through their investigation, the police said the driver had a daughter who had undergone surgery recently, costing $300,000. This series of events sparked a terrifying thought in my mind. Could it be that the $300,000 was used for this? But wasn't it for IVF? At this thought, I suddenly had a realization. The person who worked in the records department also knew Sarah. They had been good friends back then. How had I overlooked that? A terrifying thought flashed through my mind, and a wave of unease swept over me. During this period, Marcus would still send me messages occasionally. The difference was, this time he was adopting a superior tone to criticize me. Whenever you realize your mistake, come to Sarah's place and apologize to us. I told you Sarah and I were innocent, but you refused to believe me. Now look, are you happy? I'll make you realize who will take care of you and the baby without me. But, the baby is gone, killed by your own hands." His words were filled with blame for me. I ignored his demand for me to come and apologize, focused instead on verifying my suspicions. If it was true, I would personally kill those cheaters to avenge my baby. It was already 4 months old, and it was so healthy. The thought of my baby filled my heart with an unbearable bitterness. I took out my phone and arranged to meet someone at the coffee. I skipped the small talk and got straight to the point, my voice devoid of any warmth. "That IVF report, you forged it, didn't you? Chloe, if I take this evidence to the hospital, do you think you'll still have a job?" Seeing her eyes filled with panic, my heart pounded. To be honest, I had no proof, I was just bluffing. Before I could press her further, she spoke first. "I'm sorry, I lied to you. When came to me then, I didn't think too much of it. She said that if people knew the baby in her womb wasn't from IVF, they would surely judge her. That's why I helped her fake it. Please don't report me." With every word she spoke, my heart grew colder. So, the baby in her womb was naturally conceived, right? My eyes were terrifyingly red as I asked Chloe, my voice trembling. Receiving her clear answer, my heart ached more than if it had been ripped apart. One was Marcus, my husband, the other, my best friend. The betrayal of these two was undoubtedly a fatal blow to me. I provided the police with a lead, asking them to focus their investigation on where the money for the driver's daughter's surgery had come from, because my baby might not have died by accident. The police investigation was swift. It turned out the driver was specifically arranged by Sarah. The $300,000 for his daughter's surgery was transferred to him by Sarah, on the condition that he caused the death of my unborn child. That social media post was deliberately sent for me to see. She knew I would take the bait. The van driver had been following me, and only after confirming I had fallen into the trap did he crash into my car. During this period, I hadn't contacted Marcus at all. Perhaps seeing no reaction from me, he actually called me. "We've been in a cold war for so long. Do you realize your mistake yet?" I hadn't even confronted him yet, and he was calling me first. I couldn't help but let out a cold, self-deprecating laugh as I replied. "Wrong. Terribly wrong. You're with Sarah at home, aren't you? I'm coming over now to admit my mistake." After hanging up, I went straight to their place, carrying the divorce papers. When I arrived, Sarah opened the door. She was wearing a sexy slip nightgown, her abdomen slightly bulging. The moment she opened the door, her eyes darted to my stomach, whether intentionally or not, I couldn't tell. "Ellie, you're here." She ignored my bloodshot eyes, still acting as if we were close friends. "Marcus is making a nutritious meal for me and the baby right now. Would you like to join us?" Don't get the wrong idea, he's just making me a nutritious meal to thank me for letting him stay these past couple of days. I listened to her finish, my face completely devoid of expression. Seeing me like this, she simply stopped pretending. "That's right, Marcus and I are together. I regret it, I don't want to be someone who doesn't believe in marriage anymore. I love Marcus. Ellie, if you're smart, you'll leave on your own. You can't win against me." She spoke softly, only loud enough for me to hear. Inside, Marcus likely noticed that no one had entered and wondered if something was wrong. He walked out of the kitchen, his upper body bare. A man and a woman, dressed like that, made it hard not to think the worst. He saw me, and his first words were accusatory. "So now you've decided to beg me? Weren't you so full of attitude before? Alright, go wash your hands and come eat. You and Sarah are both pregnant, so I specifically made a nutritious meal for the two of you." As he said this, his eyes were fixed on Sarah, completely failing to notice my flat abdomen. The tenderness in his eyes was so abundant it seemed to overflow. Even though I already knew his true colors, my heart still couldn't help but ache. Seeing me still standing by the door, with no intention of entering, he turned around with displeasure, furrowing his brow. "What, do I need to formally invite you in? Or are you not sincerely here to apologize, but to pick a fight?" I sniffled, trying hard to keep my voice from trembling. "Marcus, I'm here for you to sign the divorce papers." To my surprise, he didn't even glance at it and tore the papers into pieces in a few swift motions. "Eleanor, are you ever going to stop? How many times do you have to bring up divorce before you're satisfied? It's truly endless, isn't it? If it weren't for the baby, I wouldn't tolerate." Speaking of the baby, he instinctively glanced at my stomach. He finally noticed my flat abdomen. "Where's the baby?" Seeing me cry without saying a word, his anger was fully ignited. "Eleanor, are you crazy? No matter how unreasonable you are, you shouldn't have gotten rid of the baby. He was blinded by rage, and every word he uttered stabbed at my heart. Seeing him yell so fiercely, Sarah couldn't help but flash me a triumphant smile. But the moment Marcus's eyes turned to her, she immediately switched to a look of great concern for me. Ellie, how could you have gotten rid of the baby just because you were jealous of Marcus and me? You know how much Marcus was looking forward to this baby's arrival. By doing this, aren't you just humiliating him? Seeing act so understanding, Marcus's brow gradually relaxed. But I was provoked by her words and slapped Sarah with all my might. She lost her footing and stumbled back several steps from the force of my slap. Ah! Her shriek echoed in my ears. Marcus, seeing what happened, immediately rushed forward to support Sarah, his eyes filled with worry. Are you okay, Sarah? Her face was filled with injustice, and tears streamed down instantly. It doesn't matter if I'm okay, as long as the baby in my stomach is fine. Hearing's words, Marcus's anger intensified even further. A woman like you, who gets rid of her baby, doesn't deserve to be a mother. After 4 years together, Marcus knew how much I loved children. Yet now he was personally saying that I didn't deserve to be a mother. Seeing me about to retort, he slapped me across the face. He put all his strength into that slap. I was knocked straight to the ground, blood trickling from the corner of my mouth. The difference in strength between men and women is already significant, and with all his might behind that slap, I lay on the ground for a long time, unable to recover. Seeing my disheveled state, his eyes held no sympathy, and his words continued to sting. I slapped you for Sarah. Who do you think you are, daring to lay a hand on her? Stop lying on the ground playing dead. Get up and apologize to Sarah right now. Because I had only recently had a miscarriage, my stomach ached terribly. There were 5 finger marks on my face, and blood wouldn't stop flowing from the corner of my mouth. The long-suppressed humiliation finally erupted, and I screamed. Marcus, how do you think our baby died? Was there really something urgent at the office that day, or were you actually at the hospital seeing Sarah? My eyes were terrifyingly red, and my voice was filled with despair. Seeing my sudden outburst, a flicker of guilt crossed Marcus's eyes. I was just afraid you'd misunderstand Sarah and me. Besides, even if I really was at the hospital seeing Sarah, that's no reason for you to have gotten rid of our baby, is it? No matter what, the baby was innocent. How could you deprive it of the chance to come into this world? He finally found his voice again, regaining the upper hand. Hearing his words, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. I followed you to the hospital that day, but I was in a car accident on the way. Do you know that while I lay on a stretcher, covered in blood, you were holding Sarah's waist? The baby could have been saved, but because you didn't answer your phone, the doctors didn't dare proceed with surgery. The more I spoke, the more agitated I became, my body shaking uncontrollably. Marcus, it was you. You personally killed our baby. After saying those words, all the strength drained from my body. He opened his mouth several times but ultimately said nothing. I saw the guilt in his eyes and her gradual reddening, but I felt no emotion. The one who truly killed our baby wasn't me, it was Marcus. So, Marcus, do you still think I'm being unreasonable for wanting a divorce? You killed our baby, and you personally destroyed our years of shared feelings. You say I don't deserve to be a mother, but what about you? Do you deserve to be a father? Each question struck deep into his conscience. His eyes were filled with helplessness, and he could only look at me with guilt. But how could I possibly let him off easily? What he owed me was far more than this. Marcus, the baby in Sarah's womb is yours, isn't it? At these words, both their gazes became telling, especially Sarah's, which was filled with utter panic. Hearing me say this, Marcus instinctively retorted. Ellie, even if I did make a mistake, you can't slander Sarah and me like this. I ignored him, my gaze fixed directly on Sarah. Chloe already came clean to me. She said you never did IVF, the baby in your womb was naturally conceived. I treated you like my best friend, and you? You seduced Marcus and are carrying his child. Tears flowed as I spoke, my heart aching as if it were being torn apart. I opened my phone and showed them evidence of the 2 of them entering and leaving the hotel. The man and woman in the photos were indeed Marcus, with his arm around Sarah. Marcus, what do you have to say for yourself now? And that $300,000, you deliberately transferred it to Sarah to clear your suspicions, didn't you? Seeing their expressions, I had my answer. I'm sorry, Ellie. Although the baby in Sarah's womb is mine, you're the only one who has ever been in my heart. Don't worry, once her baby is born, I'll come back and live a good life with you. He had taken things this far and still thought I would forgive him, it was ridiculous. The heavy blows were too much for my body to bear, every word I spoke drained all my strength. Marcus, you don't know, Do you? That $300,000. Sarah used it to. Before I could continue, Sarah started screaming in pain. My stomach hurts so much. Marcus, quickly, take me to the hospital. She knew what I was about to say and immediately faked stomach pain. Hearing her cry out in pain, Marcus panicked. He scooped Sarah up in a bridal carry. As he was about to leave, Marcus turned, his face full of concern. Ellie, he said, I'm taking Sarah to the hospital first. I won't divorce you, but I will find a way to make it up to you. After those 2 sentences, he didn't linger, completely oblivious to me, slumped on the floor, my face terrifyingly pale. Not long after he left, I fainted from exhaustion. It was Sarah's neighbor who saw me when they came out and called an ambulance for me. In a cruel twist of fate, Sarah and I ended up in the same hospital room. The doctor's serious voice reached my ears. You've just had a miscarriage, and now you've experienced another shock. You need to rest properly. After instructing me, he turned his head towards Sarah. There's nothing serious, the baby is very healthy. Even though I was also admitted to the hospital, Marcus still chose to stay by Sarah's side. Hearing the doctor's words, his face was filled with guilt. Ellie, I'm sorry. I thought Sarah's condition was more serious. Don't worry, I cut him off coldly before he could finish. Stop your pretense. I don't need it. After snapping at Marcus, I fixed my gaze on Sarah. You should be thankful you have a child inside you right now. Otherwise you wouldn't be lying here, you'd be in jail. As soon as I spoke, Marcus's face filled with confusion. Ellie, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Don't understand? Marcus, you're a jerk. How do you think that car accident happened? My words left Marcus even more bewildered. Marcus, why don't you ask your dear mistress what she did with those 300,000? Sarah's face crumpled with panic when she heard my words. Ellie, Dawn. Talk nonsense. Of course I've kept that 300,000 safe. After all, Marcus and I will have many expenses once our baby is born. I didn't answer her. Enduring my weakened state, I left the room. Marcus tried to follow me, but Sarah forced him to stay, claiming she felt unwell. I had already lost all hope in Marcus, so whether he followed me or not, I didn't care. I contacted my lawyer to draft a new divorce agreement and sent it to Marcus. I also reported the incident to the police. Even though Sarah was pregnant, she couldn't escape legal repercussions. For hiring a hitman and committing such a heinous crime, the police sentenced her to 3 years in prison, to begin after she gave birth. As for Marcus, he stubbornly refused to sign the divorce agreement and tried every possible way to contact me. But I had already moved and blocked all his contact information. Yet, somehow he found my new address and confronted me. The moment he saw me, he knelt on the ground, his face streaming with tears. Ellie, I'm so sorry, truly sorry. I never meant to harm our baby. When I gave Sarah that 300,000, it was just to avoid arousing your suspicion. I never imagined she'd use it to hire a hitman. Seeing that I remained unmoved, his expression grew even more distraught. Ellie, is there really no hope for us anymore? We loved each other so much before, how could it have come to this? Yes, Marcus and I used to be so close. Marcus, why did you cheat? Although I had already given up on him completely, I couldn't help but ask the question. He looked at me deeply, as if lost in memory. Because personality is completely different from yours. I found her special, and that's why I was captivated by her. After saying this, his face was filled with remorse. Later, she came to me and said she wanted a child, that she wanted someone to depend on, and I softened for a moment. But I truly never intended to hurt you, Ellie, please believe me. I expected to become hysterical after getting an answer, but I didn't. Instead, I felt remarkably calm. But, I can't forgive you. Every time I see your face, I'll be reminded of the child you caused to be lost. Go. I don't want to see you again. I've already sent you the divorce agreement. Remember to sign it. I said all this calmly, completely disregarding his hurt gaze. Ellie, you're so cruel. He got up from the ground and wiped the tears from his face. I'll make things right for you, and for our baby. I didn't understand, and turned to leave. Soon after, I received the divorce agreement as I wished, and a huge weight was lifted off my chest. The next time I heard about Marcus, he was already in prison. It turned out that after he left that day, to avenge our baby, he stabbed Sarah in the stomach with a knife. Although she was rushed to the hospital, the baby couldn't be saved. After stabbing her, he turned himself in. And without the child as a shield, Sarah also had to go to prison. In the end, Marcus was sentenced to 3 years in prison for intentional assault, just like Sarah. Both of them paid the price they deserved. My baby, rest in peace, finally received justice. After everything settled down, I went to Germany. There, I met someone who loved me very much. He was Chinese, and we got along incredibly well. He fell in love with me at first sight, and it took him a year of pursuing me before I finally accepted his confession. Not long after we got married, we had a baby. I wondered if it was my previous child coming back to me. After was released from prison, he tried to contact me, but I ignored him. I had my husband and my child. I decided to let bygones be bygones. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.